SKOL Vikings, let's win this game.
Vikings fan, get ready for a full rundown of the latest updates. That playoff chance has basically turned into a miracle, but it's still alive. There was a defensive hit that ended in a serious injury and a wave of debate. The offense finally found a bit of life with some new faces, while one of the team's stars stayed unusually quiet on the stat sheet. And a veteran just wrote a heavy new chapter in purple and gold that a lot of people who live and breathe Vikings football need to hear. But before we dive into every detail of this breakdown, let me say something real quick. If you love living and breathing Vikings football for real, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It's free, and it helps this project more than you imagine. Hit that like button because it tells YouTube to push this video to more fans in purple and gold. And stick around with us because this space belongs to all of us. Let me be direct because this story got to me early in the day. You wake up, check the standings, see that ridiculous less than 1% number, and think it's over. Then you breathe. Remember how this team loves to test our sanity and realize there's still a crack of hope. A tiny one, almost symbolic, but still there. And anyone who lives and breathes Vikings football knows how those little cracks can haunt you. The path is unbelievable. Winning every remaining game would already be a massive challenge, but everything around it looks like a script designed to test the Purple Faithful's faith, patience, and stubbornness. Every outside result turns into some wild combination. Every other team's game becomes a mini-final. And to be honest with you, part of me thinks this whole thing is crazy, but another part remembers every impossible comeback this franchise has pulled off. Remembers how this purple and gold uniform loves to laugh in the face of math. The list of conditions looks like an emotional obstacle course. The Browns need to handle the Bears. The Rams have to push the Lions backward. Then come the Packers helping in the most ironic way possible. The Steelers, Commanders, and Seahawks all jump into the equation. The 49ers too. Everything stacking together like the league itself is messing with us. One thing at a time, everything hanging by a thread. But when you dig deeper, you realize there's some logic in this chaos. Minnesota needs Chicago to collapse completely. Needs Detroit to stumble at the exact right moment but still grab the one specific win that helps Minnesota at the end. Needs the NFC South not to push anyone too far ahead. It's like destiny laid out a puzzle with pieces that barely fit. And we, sitting high in that emotional bleacher we've carried our whole lives, try to assemble it all while the clock keeps running. The wildest part is that some of these results aren't even that impossible. Others feel like pure fiction. Only here do you get this kind of perspective from someone who has lived through every bit of Vikings insanity and still sits in the same seat year after year. Sometimes I laugh by myself. We promise we won't fall for it again. And we fall anyway. And of course there's math involved. A 3-team tiebreaker, division win scenarios, that quiet little war inside the NFC North. In the perfect scenario, and perfect is doing a lot of work here, Vikings, Lions, and Bears would all finish tied. Then comes the detail no one outside this fan base understands. Head-to-head and division records would tilt things toward Minnesota. It's almost poetic. A little messy, but poetic. The truth is this microscopic chance isn't really about numbers. It's about identity. It's about carrying the stubbornness that has always defined this team. It's about rooting for every stumble elsewhere while trying to believe it all still matters. Tell me what you think about this wild scenario. I'm laughing, but it's nervous laughter. And stick with me because the next story shifts the whole tone. Honestly, plays like this always leave a bitter taste, even in a comfortable win. You see a veteran guy respected around the league trying to secure a catch. Suddenly everything stops. The stadium goes quiet. A player is on the ground and the cart rolls in. We already know it isn't something minor, and anyone who loves this sport, no matter how tough or old school, feels that impact immediately. Jay Ward's hit on Zach Ertz was exactly that. A heavy collision, a tough image to watch, and an online debate that exploded within minutes. And for people who rally behind that defend the North mentality, reactions were split. A lot of fans called it dirty, saying Ward went for the legs and didn't need to make that kind of contact. Some folks will never accept plays like this. But when you listen to Kevin O'Connell talk about it, you realize there's another side to the story. He points to the speed of the game, the violence baked into the sport, and how defenders operate inside an almost impossible rule book. To be honest with you, I didn't see malice in Ward's hit. I saw a guy trying to make a play inside the safe zone he's taught, staying away from the head and neck area, trying not to draw a flag or a fine. The problem is that with Ertz in the air, any half-second adjustment changes everything. He landed right at the worst possible contact point, and the knee paid the price. When we watch the replay, it's easy to pause and dissect. It's easy to assign blame. Down on the field, it's pure instinct, pure reaction, pure survival. O'Connell stood up for his player, but he didn't ignore the bigger picture. He stressed coaching technique, reducing risk whenever possible. He admitted some things are unavoidable because football is violent by nature, but he also reinforced that the staff must constantly push players toward the safest decision available. I appreciate that stance. It's not the empty, it's part of the game line. It acknowledges the pain while still protecting the guys in purple and gold. And the human element matters even more here. Ertz is a 35-year-old veteran near the end of his career. A hit like that might be the final snapshot of him on an NFL field. O'Connell said he reached out afterward because he knows and respects the guy. That shows these relationships don't just vanish because two players wear different uniforms. Everyone out there knows they flirt with the limits of the human body every Sunday. Sure, the league might still hand out discipline or review the play. There's always that behind-the-scenes layer. But viewed through the eyes of someone who has watched Minnesota's defense hit hard for decades, I see more misfortune than intent. It hurts, it frustrates the opposing side, but it also reminds everyone how thin the margin is. And if that play was the darkest part of the win, the next story heads straight in the opposite direction. A young player on offense finally breathing easier. Look, let me be honest with you. J.J. McCarthy desperately needed a Sunday like this. The pressure had been suffocating. Constant criticism, ugly numbers, non-stop comparisons. Then he walks onto the field against Washington and plays like someone lifted a weight off his shoulders. It wasn't perfect, but it was easily the most mature performance he has put together in purple and gold. The big difference was his demeanor. No forcing hero ball, no obsessing over stats. He executed the plan. He read situations well. He released the ball when he needed to. He protected drives when that was the priority. 3 touchdown passes, no interceptions. Clock control, offensive rhythm. That kind of performance changes the atmosphere in the locker room. You can feel confidence rising everywhere, even on the sideline. You can almost hear veterans exhaling. He opened the game strong, taking the kickoff and stacking completions right away. Then came that long drive starting at the edge of their own end zone, converting third down after third down. Drives like that aren't just numbers, they tell the whole team the quarterback sees the field and is running the show. To be honest with you, it had been a long time since I'd seen Minnesota's offense look that steady for that many snaps. O'Connell kept pushing the idea of playing for your 16-year-old self, and you could see that in McCarthy's body language. He looked lighter, less tense, less worried about pleasing everyone outside the building. He looked like a kid who just wants to play ball. Sure, Washington's defense is bad, disorganized, full of holes, but he still needed to capitalize, and he did. That alone sparked something different for people who live and breathe Vikings football. I loved how he handled third downs, strong feet, quick reads, no panic. When he had to run, he ran. When the play was dead, he didn't try to play superhero. He took what the defense gave him. Those small decisions change seasons, change confidence, change narratives. And Vikings fans everywhere feel that immediately. You watch and think, okay, there's something here to build on. Of course, one game doesn't fix everything. The season is still rough and tougher defenses are coming, but this was a real emotional turning point. It breaks the ice, it kills the early ghosts, it gives the staff positive tape to coach from, and most importantly, it changes how the locker room looks at him. Tell me in the comments if you felt that weight lifting off McCarthy's shoulders too, because the next story shifts the focus to a superstar who barely showed up on the stat sheet, but held things down the right way. I know a lot of people walk away from this game staring at Justin Jefferson's stat line and raising an eyebrow. Another quiet outing. Another moment where the best player on the roster barely touched the ball, but then you see his expression after the game, see that smile, and realize the story is way deeper than yards and targets. Jefferson had one of the quietest days of his career. 2 catches, 11 yards. A few passes didn't reach him. One play was wiped out by a penalty. For most receivers, that's enough to spark frustration and a testy interview. But he isn't most receivers. He's the face of the franchise, a leader in the locker room, and he doubled down on the idea that winning comes first. He said he'd rather win without touching the ball than lose while getting 10 passes thrown his way. That says a lot. What's bothered him the most these past weeks wasn't the numbers. It was losing. It was feeling like things weren't moving even when he played well. Now the defense dominates, the offense finds a little rhythm, the young quarterback breathes easier, and he fully buys in. You hear Kevin O'Connell talk about him, and the respect is obvious. The coach makes it clear Jefferson's impact goes far beyond the box score. His routes pull double coverage, create space for teammates, and shape the entire game plan. Then there was that near masterpiece of a play. O'Connell drew it up. Jefferson broke free behind the secondary. The entire stadium saw 6 points forming, but the pressure closed in. McCarthy had to bail from the pocket, improvise, and take the safe gain. The crowd swallowed the cheer, Jefferson laughed it off, and they moved on. To be honest with you, in other years that might have soured the vibe. Now it's just another detail and a dominant win. What struck me most was how badly Jefferson wanted to stay on the field. 31-0, game in complete control, and O'Connell trying to pull him out for safety. Jefferson tried to disappear, tried to sneak back to the huddle. It took coaches and even security to stop him. That's competitiveness. That's the kind of thing anyone who lives and breathes Vikings football recognizes instantly. Looking ahead, everyone knows the plan has to shift. You can't keep your best offensive weapon this quiet forever. O'Connell already said they'll find ways to get him the ball more. But this phase, this moment where Jefferson swallows his ego and commits fully to winning, can be foundational. Because if Minnesota can dominate with him barely touching the ball, imagine what happens when they balance everything out. Stick with me, because the next chapter taps straight into the emotional core of fans who grew up watching a certain veteran redefine Vikings secondary play. Harrison Smith is one of those players who carries time, history, and scars in the same jersey. When he grabs a ball out of the air, especially at this stage of his career, it's never just another stat on a website. It's memory, it's tradition. It's every Vikings fan remembering why they fell in love with this team. And in that game against Washington with 31-0 on the scoreboard and the defense suffocating everything, you could tell it hit him differently. Interception number 38 is no ordinary milestone. It cements his name in the franchise's historical ranks. He's the veteran who has seen everything, every coordinator, every coaching change, every roster shakeup, and he still finds moments to shine. He'd been waiting for this one for a long time. The defense hadn't been generating turnovers. The season hasn't gone the way he deserves, yet he stayed steady, quiet, and focused. When you hear him speak afterward, the emotion is obvious. He brings up O'Connell's message about playing for your younger self, the teenager who just dreamed of stepping onto an NFL field, and suddenly that inner kid looks up at the scoreboard, hears the stadium roaring, feels the ball hit his hands, and realizes every bruise was worth it. To be honest with you, seeing Smith that emotional hits hard for anyone who has followed this franchise for years. There's nostalgia too. He mentioned Anthony Barr, remembered the years they controlled the heart of the defense together, said he stepped on the field already feeling like he'd snag one that day, and he did. Then came the tribute to legends like Joey Browner, the comparisons to the greats in purple and gold. You can feel in his voice that every name matters to him. It's not a speech, it's gratitude. Even in a season where playoff hopes are basically fantasy, Smith shows why competing still matters. He has a few more games to climb even higher on the all-time interception list, maybe even passing some icons. But more than that, he's the bridge between eras. He's the veteran lifting up the young quarterback, the presence keeping the defense aligned, the reminder to have fun even when the standings don't cooperate. At the end of the day, moments like this prove the Vikings are more than their record. They're a story being written bit by bit, even when the calendar feels cold. And that blend of past, present, and future sets the stage for the bigger conversation I want to have about this team and this fan base. It's wild how this team manages to be everything at once, nearly eliminated, dangerous, chaotic, and impossible to ignore. We talk about microscopic playoff odds. We talk about a brutal hit, a young quarterback finally finding rhythm, a superstar accepting a quiet statistical day, and a veteran holding on to the soul of the franchise. In the middle of all that, there's one simple truth. Being a Vikings fan means choosing a life where emotion never takes a day off. Drop your thoughts in the comments. This space belongs to everyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go.